were you able to test your software distribution?
Yes, we did.
What did you put out on the network?
Well, for that, we just actually just used the Shadow Copy client, which needs to be installed anyway, but we didn't create our own MSI packages for that.
Did you find that successfully installed?
Yes, it did. That installed successfully.
Now the shadow copies, you mentioned shadow copies. Did you get a chance to test shadow copies at all? And did you go through the requirements of the shadow copies?
Yes, actually we did, and when we copied and installed the Shadow Copy client, that actually, when we went out there and tested that, when we went to the client and got that installed, make sure that it actually did install, we did see several versions of files out there, so it does work.
You said you're going to have stored internet connections, or were you giving them the option or mandatory?
Well, the requirements say that leaving it up to the store managers, but we're basically kind of saying that this should be that way. They have VPN connection, faster connection to our network, so we're basically forcing that issue.
No, so you're going to have the stores connect via VPN.
Right. Each store will have their own DSL connection, and basically will VPN into the servers as needed.
Was there a reason that you chose that instead of something else like dial-up?
Dial-up is slow, and VPN connection just seems like it's a relatively small cost, and if they have internet needs otherwise, this way also gives them much faster connection than just dial-up.
Good. Did you get a chance to test the WINS proxy or set it up?
Well, we set it up, but without the Unix servers, really can't test this.
You didn't have any non-WINS capable clients, correct, for testing? Did you run into any problems getting your specifically with getting your DNS to work between your forests?
No, we didn't. Once we set up the stub zones and created the trust, we've never had a problem with them.
Wow, nice. So you're able to resolve names across?
We have to resolve names across both networks.
Did you run into any problems while creating your forest trust?
The only problem we had was first we forgot to raise the forest functionality. We raised the domain, but we forgot to raise the forest. Once we raised the forest functionality, had no problems with it.
Just worked. Any problems getting NAT and VPN to work?
Yeah, about that.
Is that rhetorical?
Yeah, sort of.
Well, ideally, we wouldn't be using Microsoft servers as routers and VPN servers or NAT or any of that. We'd have an appliance of some type, whether it be Cisco, Juniper, or whatever. But yeah, we did run into problems, partially machine problems, related problems, and then getting the one last little step of being able to actually ping across the VPN connection. We had to create the filters for that.
And you talked about using DHCP. What was your plan for your subnets? What size, what type of IP addressing, and why did you choose what you chose?
Well, actually, the one slide we actually have what our subnet ranges are. We went ahead with the Class C network, the 192 private network. Just simply because it's easier. We're no bigger than what the company seems to be. we don't have, obviously, a full employee list, but we're no bigger than what it seems to be. That just seemed like the most logical choice and a little bit easier to deal with than using a Class A network with Class B subnetting.
Did you plan any redundancy for your DHCP solution?
Yes, we did. Actually, the backup domain controller would also operate as backup DHCP servers.
Okay, so in your plan, did you have a way to prevent conflicts between? Did you have the same range of addresses on both DHCP servers? Or was that part of your plan?
You mean in one domain?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
On the two DHCP servers in one forest, or one domain, did you have overlapping IP address ranges?
ideally no, you wouldn't have the overlapping IP ranges. If you have them both actually fully functional and operational at the time. And I guess I kind of looked at it from the standpoint, we have the second one ready to go, so the first DHCP server fails, flip a switch and
It's not
back
actually
on.
getting addresses out.
Right.
So it's not a hot solution. If you have to be aware of it and implement it.
And then implement it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple different ways of doing that. We could just simply set up different scopes for for the different machines. They're handing out different sets of IP addresses. That way, there is no conflict. But in my opinion, I think having it basically just being able to flip the switch to have it be fully functional is a little better option.
Okay.
Some may argue with me on that.
Some of my IT guys like to do that.
But yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I've got a question. So how are your wireless, your 10 remote salespeople that rove around the United States, how are they connecting to the network?
They're basically they're not using the wireless. They'll basically wherever they're going to be at using the internet connection and VPNing back into the office. Essentially the same way that the home users would do it. The home users they'll actually have their physical machines in the office and they'll just remote desktop into it once they connect. The salespeople actually have their laptops. They'll just plug into the internet wherever, hotel, wherever they happen to be, and then they can VPN back into the office.
Did you guys as a company ever consider using the cellular cards?
That's unreliable at best. It's slow. That is definitely an option to do, and it is a lot higher cost. Since we already have the VPN connections for the telecommuters anyway, why not utilize that and give them a faster connection? The wireless, the problem is, every provider, you're going to run into dead spots somewhere. Certain providers are slower than others, and it's real iffy at best. So. Unless we had a need saying, okay, somebody's going to be out in their car, showing a place or something, then I really can't justify the cost of using the cellular phones.
So would you have a wireless access point at each one of the remote stores for them to access them?
At the remote stores, they're probably going to be hardwired in, and they'll just plug into the network there, and then they can just get back into our network through their internet connection there.
So you're not actually using the wireless points?
We are. This is okay. I guess I should go back and explain the wireless
section right here.
The wireless access points are actually in the Elk Islands manufacturing plant. They have all the handhelds that are all wireless and have to connect to the network. And that's the only way, and the barcode readers and that type of stuff. That's the only way they have access to the network. That's why we actually got the wireless access points, is for in the manufacturing plant. Because with the handhelds, you can't just go plug them into the wall somewhere. You're going to be out. Okay, we got to scan this bar and this box. So that's the main reason for the wireless access points. Any other questions?
How did you come up with your backup scheme? I think you said you were doing Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, and then a Friday, Saturday, full backup.
Full backup on
You've got
Saturday.
you've got manufacturing and retail, which have different volumes of data coming in at different times.
Well, the main thing is, we don't really have enough information to say that that's going to be the best times to do it. Ideally, our full backup is going to be whenever the slow time is for, sales or manufacturing or what have you.
The requirement was to keep the less amount of network traffic as possible. So that was,
Depending on how, if we've done our job and have everything wired, the way it should be, backups should go relatively quick. So.
How big of a role did planning play in being successful in the project?
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most important, I'd say it's most important. Planning is the most important.
It seriously is. It is with any project. You got to make sure that you got all the pieces in play before you actually start implementing them.
We actually had to reel ourselves in a couple times because we get to a point where we thought we could start doing a few things, and we'd start doing it, and we're like, well, wait, we got to step back and get 10 steps ahead before.
And that's always the problem when you do any kind of planning like this. You think you've got the basics of it down, and then once you actually start doing it, oh, wait a minute, okay, I didn't think about that, so let's go ahead and let's plan out that step too before we ever get started. So it's, to say you can just sit down and design it all from start to finish in one setting is somewhat unrealistic. You're always going to be tweaking it.